Welcome to the Glitter Witch Project. Today we are going to be making paper beads. So this is my first one. I'm a little nervous, but it's gonna be okay. We'll get the hang of this together, right? So anyway, the things we need for this project are glue, paper with pretty pictures on it, something to wrap our beads around, something to put the completed beads in, and something to have the beads on while they're drying. So the first thing we're going to do is cut out some beads. Now the shape you're going to use with most of these is a triangle, simply because it looks cool. Alright, so normally you get about 3 good triangles or so out of a picture. It kind of depends on how big it is. The wider, see at the top here, the wider this is, the wider, well, the longer your bead will be. And then the longer this is, the wider your bead will be. Now, even thin beads have seemed to work for me because the glue kind of gives it strength, but a lot of people like thicker beads. I'm not really sure why, but they do. It's a thing. So we're just going to cut a few of these out. Now when you're cutting beads, the things you want to look at are your colors, number one, and because that's what you're going to see. And then your other thing that you want to look at is the pattern, because the pattern when you roll it up is also going to be important. You also want to make sure you don't get too wide, depending on the kind of bead you want. For instance, the roller, I'm doing small beads right now, so my little roller is this long, so I don't want to go longer than that. So this one would be a little too wide, so I'm going to cut it in half. Now I normally cut a little bit, and then roll a little bit, and go back and forth like that, but it's just kind of up to you. Obviously, you don't have to do it the exact same way I do it. I'm not the best person at this. Okay, Faith, you didn't have to comment on that. That's my service dog. Her name is Faith. She is very, very opinionated. And then once I get my beads cut, I go back and look at the little scraps, because some of them actually make really cool beads themselves. So, yeah. My service dog, in general, doesn't like crafts. She just doesn't. She thinks they're horrible, and so she complains about them. Anytime I do crafts, she complains about it. She does not like yarn. She does not like crafting. And she's very, very opinionated. You wouldn't think a dog could be that opinionated. She's that opinionated. Okay, so, don't know if I've said this before. Normally I'll do a couple pages, 1 or 2. Well, normally it's 2. I almost always do 2 pages, unless it's just really, really thin, you know, on the artwork. But we're not going to do that many today because it takes a long time. So we're going to take our glue now. I use tacky glue. You can probably use just about any glue. You want something that's a little sticky. A lot of people use glue sticks, but around here glue sticks are valued so much by my child's teachers at school that I feel guilty using any of them because, you know, like, if you see a glue stick around one of their teachers, their eyes light up. It's like, glue sticks! So, yeah. And some people like, you know, the regular white school glue, but with the whole slime craze, that's kind of hard to find nowadays. So this one is readily available, and I find it pretty easy to work with. Now I always put it out into a container. This isn't a special container. This is the lid to a prescription bottle. So, and you'll find that I almost always use things that are free. You know, the whole reduce, reuse, recycle thing. So, we're going to take one of our bead pieces. We're going to put glue, I use my fingers, on the top part and then the bottom part where it's going to roll around. And then we're going to wrap it around the end of our bead roller. Now, I normally use my crochet hooks for this, like the end of my crochet hooks, because it seems to work well. Some people, like, when I started out, I was using like skewers, like little pieces of wood, and they got stuck real easy. So I ended up with a bunch of little pieces of wood with, you know, beads stuck to them, which is really frustrating. So I switched to the metal, which is not only pretty easy to roll, but pretty easy to get stuck beads off of and extra glue off of, because you can just get it wet. So this is what we do. We put the glue on, just like that. Then we wrap it around our stick. So sometimes it just kind of rolls on its own, and other times I have to help it along by just kind of putting it down with my fingernails and, you know, getting it started. And then when you are wrapping it, you want to rotate your bead and not the stick, because that helps it not get stuck to the stick. Because, like I said earlier, beads getting stuck to the stick is really a pain in the ass. Now, as you can see, those are pretty wide. The tops were pretty wide on those, so I get pretty long beads. This is going to be a more narrow bead, and depending on the shape of bead you want, and of course this gets more specific when they're longer, when you're rolling wider beads. But that's where you want to make sure your little end ends up. Now you can do just random colors. You can do patterns. You can obviously use regular paper. You can print patterns. You can use colored construction paper. You can use cardstock, like special printed cardstock. Again, I'm into reusing, so this is an old craft catalog. A lot of my old garden catalogs, I save those too, because they just make really pretty beads. And then I tend to make a lot of beads, so when it's time to do a project, all I do is pick out the right colors. As you can see, my bead, that's just my paper bead stash, but it is significant. And one of the projects I'm going to do coming up is a little beaded curtain for indoors, so with the paper beads, so that should be fun. We'll do a little video on that. But now these are for indoor use unless you want to seal them. I end up sealing a lot of my beads, but you know, if you're going to use them in jewelry or something like that, you'll want to seal them. There are multiple ways of sealing. I normally just use polyurethane.